Brandon Sanderson is a fantasy and science fiction author. I first learned of his work on a nature walk with a coworker in 2019, and he told me about the interconnected universe and magic systems of Brandon's work, and he encouraged me to give it a try. Unfortunately, I never did so because I never learned how to read. But many others have, and those individuals were shocked in 2022 when Brandon made the following confession.
The time has come for me to admit the truth. I've been lying to you. Over the last 2 years, I've acted with extreme irresponsibility. Because I accidentally wrote an extra novel, in secret. Well, maybe not the entire secret. You see, the pandemic wasn't over. And I might have gone a little overboard, because I've written 5 extra novels in the last 2 years.
Brandon decided to sell these secret novels via Kickstarter, which led to the most well-funded Kickstarter of all time, with 185,341 backers pledging $41,754,153. It was this event that led to conversations at the Wired office, which subsequently led to an article published in that magazine about Brandon Sanderson. The article itself was written in a tone that was confoundingly unkind, even though the content of the article didn't seem to have any justification for disliking Brandon. What stuck out to me at this time was Brandon's reaction to it, linked in the description. I found Brandon's response to be very graceful and compassionate, and he talked his fans down from reacting negatively or angrily towards the article or its writer. But the most interesting part of the article to me is that it includes a visit to Evermore. Apparently the topic of the park came up while the writer was staying with the Sandersons, and the writer said, "We have to go to this park." Those in the room groaned in response with quotes including, "But it's falling apart. The park is only open at night to conceal the decay," and references to bad management. However, Brandon, attempting to be a good host, took the article writer on a visit as he wished. And the article reads, "As we walk around, Sanderson narrates, 'Those are bad prosthetics. That's half a costume. Shouldn't there be more skeletons in this dungeon? At least the apple cider is good.'" You can infer from the timeline in this article that this visit took place on Saturday, November 19th, 2022, during last year's Aurora season. This was, ironically, one of the best nights that I've ever had in Evermore, easily top 3. In this season, I was coming as a nutcracker toy soldier type of character. I was trying to recapture some of the magic that I felt when I first started coming to Evermore, so I left my phone in the car so I wouldn't feel tempted to do any YouTube stuff, and I completely committed to the bit. I would march around for hours without bending my elbows or knees at all, and I would only speak in a couple words at a time because I was just learning how to talk. And I very rarely, if ever, broke out of this character, and strangely, it led to me having a much more enjoyable time. The folks that I was hanging out with expressed that it helped them to have a good time too. That's actually the only reason that I know for a fact that I was there on the same night that Brandon visited, because later that night on the World Walker Discord, a couple of people posted quotes from my character from that night. So I wouldn't have recognized Brandon, but it's possible that we saw each other in passing. Another event that the writer of the article attended during their stay was 2022's Dragonsteel Convention. Dragonsteel is Brandon Sanderson's company, and the yearly convention just started the year before that in 2021. 2022's convention is interesting to us because one of the many activities you can engage in there included quest givers that were giving out quests that could be completed by attendees. But perhaps even more interesting was the quiet mention of something called Dragonsteel Village during one of the panels. Brandon's wife, Emily, elaborated on these plans in Dragonsteel 2023 that happened less than a month ago.
Did anyone see this image at last year's convention? A select few of you, if you were in a one certain panel, saw this image. So we have kind of a problem in that our company keeps getting bigger and bigger, and we don't have all of our employees under one roof.
Apparently, based on that Wired article, the closest thing that Dragonsteel currently has to a base of operations is the Cosmere House, which is a separate building that's right next to Brandon Sanderson's family home, which seems to work out fine for a single-digit number of visitors, but isn't scalable with Brandon's rise.
What if we build an HQ? Then we can have things exactly the way we want it. And then because he's Brandon, he's like, we can't just have an HQ. What if we had a bookstore?
A really awesome bookstore.
Kind of a chateau-esque. Somebody said you got to build a castle because you're you, and so this is our version of that. We started out calling it Dragonsteel Village, but it's not really a village. We need a new name for it. We'll come up with something.
We'll come up with something.
He's got the
Yep.
naming guy.
Whatever it's named, it sounds awesome. So in case you wanted to visit, let's find out where it's going to be. Alright, so if you search for Dragonsteel as a property owner, there are 6 parcels that come up. Let's sift through these and find out which of the 6 seems like the most likely candidate. Nah, I'm just kidding. They're all in the exact same spot across the street from Evermore. So when you're parking over in that expanded lot, you're actually parking on Brandon's land.
One of the things that we want to do with this situation here is not just have a bookstore and an HQ, but have a site. We want a place that's a destination for fans. Right now, the destination for fans is either our warehouse or our house.
Don't show up at our house.
There's too many of
Don't
them.
show up at our house.
But if we have this super awesome building and we have our HQ there and we have a bookstore there, and then we got thinking and we're like, what if we have events there too?
Yeah, what if you could have your wedding reception at Dragonsteel?
So they want this place to be a destination, somewhere where you could have a wedding. Well, that matches up with the direction that Evermore is currently focusing its business model, with this season's removal of interactable characters, and even the still advertised animal show and its staff being removed. So why did Brandon choose this location specifically? Is the relationship between Evermore and Dragonsteel going to be a symbiotic one where they each encourage visitors to the other? Or is the larger plan one of acquisition, where Brandon will take over Evermore and make the whole thing one big complex? It's hard to say. We know that Brandon and his family have expressed mild disdain for the current state of Evermore, but Brandon has also demonstrated interest in the art form of live-action questing. Would Brandon be scared away by the Evermore property's flaws and approximately $3 million in debt, or would he be willing and able to fix the things that he sees problems with? Any answers would be speculation, and there are so many variables in Evermore's situation as it develops that I doubt even Brandon has any confidence in what may happen.
So we actually are in the process of purchasing some land, some commercial land.
This part worried me for a little bit, wondering if they had moved on to considering a different location. But I reached out to Dragonsteel for clarification, and they verified that the land next to Evermore is still their planned location for the project.
We started thinking, what if we had a cafe there? And what if we had some community rooms that people could use to hold their book clubs? And I don't know, I finally had to stop it.
I just keep coming up with things. It keeps growing.
We want to build a big building that has HQ, bookstore, and events. And then we'll have a couple of other buildings on the property that are retail locations. Those will be tenants that lease from us. We might have a game store or a bakery or
Art gallery, maybe.
Art gallery.
Something like that.
In 2021, they purchased all of the land below 450 South. In 2022, they purchased the plot that would continue the road of 450 South itself. And in 2023, they purchased the land above 450 South. My assumption is that as the concept of adding retail locations developed, they wanted the extra land to accommodate it. My guess is that the main building that they've always been talking about will be to the south, and the additional retail locations will be to the north. But when will all this actually be built?
You may be asking yourselves, when will this amazing place come to be? And the answer is, we don't know exactly yet. Sometime in the next 4 to 10 years. This is a big project. We're being very careful. We're doing a lot of planning and thinking and looking at what kind of partners we might include.
Which is great that they seem to be approaching this so reasonably and meticulously. It stands in contrast to another project in the area that I'm totally blanking on the name of.
But someday, we will all go to Dragonsteel Construction Plaza Village Square, whatever we decide to call it, and you're going to be so amazed. It's going to be so awesome. As we have more information, we'll update this space. Now it's just kind of a placeholder space, but we do like fans to know what's going on, and so as we get more information, we'll put it up for you to see.
So keep an eye on this space. A link to that page will be in the description, but as they mentioned, it's currently just a stub with the exact same content that's already on your screen. A lot of you may have already known about this, but I just wanted to make a quick video for those of you who didn't. But there's nothing else to say for now, so the video's over.